welcome to the Helix webinar series. Today's session is on introducing HelixGPT to Knowledge Curator Agent. Joining me today is Erik Uvlinga, and I'm sure he's going to say it better than I do in a Swedish accent. We normally have Des. Des isn't joining us today because he has a meeting, so I won't ask Erik to do his voice in a South African accent. So a little bit about today. We do have a legal notice, which I'd like you to take a few minutes to read. While you're doing that, a couple of reminders for those that are new to Zoom. There is a Q&A section at the bottom that you'll find. You will remain muted until we get to the live Q&A at the end, but please put your questions in there during the presentation. And we also have a demo, so it's going to be roughly 45 minutes long, and then we will have around 15 minutes at the end for the live Q&A. There is a lot of content to cover, so I am going to hand over to Erik now for his formal introduction. So Erik, over to you.
Thank you, Sam. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining this webinar. My name is Erik, and I build knowledge management softwares for a living. Except for building and managing knowledge management application, I'm also quite passionate about the knowledge management process and KCS, which is short for Knowledge Centered Services, for which I consider myself to be a bit of an expert. So when I'm not building applications, I'm also doing quite a bit of coaching, meeting our customers, talking about knowledge management, and helping our customers to become successful in this area. So if you wonder why my camera screenshot is a bit dark, it's because I'm located in Sweden, and this is how it looks in Sweden at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Anyway, today's session will be about how we can use AI in knowledge management, how AI can help us to further take down the effort of working with knowledge management with the introduction of HelixGPT Knowledge Curator Agent. So in my last webinar that I did back in February this year, I talked about knowledge management as a key for successful AI. How we best can prepare ourselves and our organizational knowledge to meet the requirements for new technologies. And in that webinar, I had this a bit dramatic opening statement, right? Where I said everything is about to change. This feels like ages ago today. And to be honest, in tech years, February this year was ages ago. While there's no exact formula to calculate tech years into human years, a common analogy suggests that 1 year in technology is roughly somewhere around 19 human years. So with that, going from February this year to where we are today, I think it's fair to say that things have changed or is changing, right? So artificial intelligence in its generative form is rapidly reshaping the world as we know it, from the way we communicate and consume information to how we innovate and solve global challenges. AI is proving to be a catalyst for unprecedented change. While we are barely scraping the surface of its full potential, we can already see its transformative impact on industries and economies and societies around the globe. As AI continues to evolve, it promises to unlock new frontiers of human ingenuity and progress on one hand, and on the other, also presenting quite complex ethical and societal consideration that will require our careful navigation. So AI is already being used in our daily lives and in different business areas today, right? Couple of examples, it's being used in healthcare to help in diagnosing diseases. For example, AI can analyze medical images from X-rays to detect conditions more accurately. In finance, AI is used for fraud detection and for trading, algorithmic trading. Quite good, I can tell you from my own experience. This is actually working pretty well. We also use AI in transportation, and I guess we have Most of us have probably heard about self-driving cars, and I don't really know what the current status of self-driving cars, but we also use AI in traffic management system, improving road safety and road efficiency. And in entertainment, also think this is an area where we have tried AI, since AI is used in content recommendation system on platforms such as Netflix and Spotify, helping us to discover new movies, shows, music based on our preferences. AI is also used in making of movies, which led to a quite heated discussion in Hollywood back in 2023, where concerns were raised about the use of AI to replicate actors or likenesses of actors. So BMC Helix GPT describes BMC's powerful GPT technologies built into the Helix platform. And in a market where pretty much every vendor or everyone is talking about GPT, it's important to understand how our capabilities provide value and a point of difference, right? BMC has optimized its GPT technology to provide transformational value to a range of user personas in service and operations teams, and to the end users supported by them. Because it's built on the BMC Helix platform, it has unrivaled access to data from a range of sources within the Helix platform and beyond, including the already strongly AI-enriched data of BMC Helix AIOps. So BMC Helix GPT augments and enhances service and operations use cases through a number of distinct capabilities. I'm not going to talk about them all, but I'd rather focus on what's going to be relevant for this webinar, such as recommendations, right? This refers to the ability of guiding users with suggested next steps based on analysis of relevant requests or relevant scenarios. As an example, based on its understanding of operational situation, suggest best recommendations for next step for service desk or operation agents assigned to a case, or maybe more related to today's topic, recommendations for how to improve our knowledge articles. Conversation is a well-known capability already in generative large language model AI tools such as HelixGPT, and one which may already be very familiar to us. HelixGPT can be used to provide a conversational experience in the digital workplace, or BMC Helix Virtual Agent, which is not only more natural and technically sophisticated than the previous IBM Watson implementation, but can also be stood up for a new service request by administrators without the need to perform manual linguistic training of the AI. Curation is another interesting topic for knowledge management and other things. So curation takes the generative aspect of BMC Helix GPT further, automating the creation of language based on the context of the support or operations activity taking place. This is used, for example, to create real executable code, which is made available through operations people following best action recommendations. Our product strategy leans into the concept of large action models. Basically, we're going to build a bunch of robots that will perform the action mentioned in the previous slide. As an example, for me, it means HelixGPT Knowledge Curator, and that's what we're going to talk about today. The Knowledge Curator will be able to do things like automatically audit your knowledge base, looking for duplicates or obsolete articles or things related to the knowledge management process. We have the HelixGPT Data Scientist that will help data folks to build reports and converse with their data. We also have an agent called HelixGPT Custom Agent Builder that will address one of the most intimidating parts of creating business application, by helping app development teams to create and modify workflows. On the left-hand side, I like to say that those who have access to the most enterprise data in the closest to real time will win in AI. We are building native connections into existing data sources like SharePoint, as well as building strategic relationships with different cloud vendors. On the right-hand side, unlike other vendors out there who are more closed when it comes to data, we're taking an open approach, one that offers customization, financial incentives like retiring cloud commits, data privacy and security, performance optimization, and control for our customers. We are going to work with the tools that our customers are either already using or are about to start using. So let's go into the knowledge management part. Before we start to talk about AI and how AI can support our knowledge management or content management for that matter, I think it's relevant to mention why it matters, right? Why we need it. With the rise of GPT, I think it's fair to ask, do we even need to have knowledge management in the future? As I have been following the evolvement of knowledge management and AI, one of the more common use cases I noticed are things like enhance knowledge discovery or improve your knowledge retrieval, or more things related to how we find and use our knowledge. And I think it's easy to see the use case where we go and ask HelixGPT, as an example, some questions and get responses back. This would be a typical use case, a typical conversation use case. And again, from my experience of using HelixGPT, it's a very effective way to get information to a point where it starts to change the way we interact with search. We no longer need to search for documents or knowledge articles that hold the answer we seek. We can just ask our question to HelixGPT, and HelixGPT would read through the pages for us and give us the answer. This will, if not already have, an impact on our professional lives. But this use case, even though this is what comes up when I look into this and do research, this use case to me is not really knowledge management. This is more the result of knowledge management, an outcome of the efforts we put into our knowledge base. I can absolutely see why this comes up in discussions about AI knowledge management, because it's very powerful. But in order for this to be powerful, in order for this to be this all-knowing entity, our agents, our assistants, our RAGs, and so forth, whatever they're called, they need to have clean, high-quality data to serve us well. This is a fundamental criteria. Data quality is key. So the answer to, do we need to have knowledge management in the future? Yes, of course, probably more than ever. We do need a process to ensure that information that we allow GPT to use is of a certain quality to provide for good and helpful answers. And with that, let's proceed and talk about how AI can help us with our knowledge management endeavors. Let's talk about HelixGPT Knowledge Curator Agent. So first, what is it? Helix Knowledge Curator Agent is a HelixGPT powered assistant for knowledge management, designed to supercharge how we manage our knowledge, saving us time and efforts and ensuring that the most relevant and accurate knowledge is available just in time. So if we go back to why we do knowledge management in the first place, and there are several good reasons to do knowledge management, but common one would be that it helps us to be more effective, right? Helps us to solve incoming issues and respond to questions in a more effective and consistent way. leading to increased service level and improved service deliveries. Finding a way to simplify this process and the work we do with knowledge is one of the most important parts of my work when I plan and design new features and functionalities. We need to have tools, applications, services, whatever it is, that makes sense and that help us, are easy to use and effective, do the works effectively, right? There are these certain challenges that has been with us forever, and I'm going to go ahead and assume that many of us working with knowledge management knows about the challenge of keeping the content, keeping our knowledge base accurate and up to date at all times. So far, knowledge-centered services, or KCS, has been one answer, right? And a good answer. Working according to the best practice methodology of KCS will make our work with knowledge easier. I'm, of course, a big fan of KCS and a strong advocate for KCS. And I know I probably sound like a broken record when I go on and on about the benefits of working according to KCS, but all for a good reason, because KCS really helps, right? While KCS will continue to be the North Star of our knowledge offering, I think today this is not the only answer, right? With the new technologies and the expertise that we have within the company, we have an opportunity now to reinvent knowledge management and to automate parts of the KCS framework to make our work with knowledge even easier. Now I'm going to go into the details and talk a bit more about the capabilities that we have in the Knowledge Curator. If you have any questions, and if you don't want to wait to the end of the session, please use the chat. Ask your questions. Okay. All right. So we are working on Knowledge Curator today. We have a couple of features in mind, and I would like to present them all to you. The first one we call Generate, and it's more or less, what it sounds like. And from my experience, one of the more expected use cases for AI related to knowledge management is to be able to generate or create knowledge article based on existing information. And I agree, it's an interesting idea. However, I do think there are some consideration we first need to address. First, and this is important, and I have probably said this before, but knowledge management is not a competition about having the most knowledge articles, right? Just creating a lot of knowledge articles will not help us to become successful in knowledge management. We should care about quality, not quantity. Knowledge is the byproduct of an interaction or experience, and every interaction we have is opportunity to get more knowledge. In the world of KCS, we call it capture knowledge. So if I am a service desk agent working in service desk and I get a call from a user with a problem or issue, that is opportunity. Opportunity for me to capture new knowledge or use whatever information I get to improve existing knowledge. And if we have if we have a knowledge base and we have a process for knowledge management, I would think that we probably don't need to generate new knowledge for every interaction we have. I would assume that we could probably practice reuse in most of our interactions, right? We should evolve our knowledge base and its content based on demand and usage. This means that we create and update knowledge articles in the knowledge base when there's a need for it. Not because we think it's a good idea or we think that we might need to have these articles somewhere in the future. We should think just in time, not just in case. And this is exactly what the Knowledge Curator would help us to do. Again, if I'm a service desk working in Helix, I have a requester on the phone who describes their issue or problem, and I start search the knowledge base for existing articles, or even better, I use HelixGPT Assistant to look for a suitable solution but there's no one to be found. That's when Knowledge Curator comes in to assist me in capturing information for a first draft of a new knowledge article. So when I talk about that we are going to generate new knowledge, I mean that we will generate drafts for new knowledge articles, because that's what we're supposed to do. That's what we're supposed to do in Service Desk. Since we are creating knowledge based on demand and usage, and we're not able to find an article to reuse, we're going to have to assume that this is a new issue, something new, a new problem, something we don't know yet. And therefore, my focus is to capture as much as I can for the issue or the problem statement, right? And save it to make the information usable for my colleagues in Service Desk. We should not strive to create complete articles from Service Desk. That's just, it takes too much time. So the Knowledge Curator will help us to seamlessly generate new knowledge based on demand and usage. It will help us to decrease the time to proficiency. Well, this means that more people will be able to participate in the knowledge management process with less training. And this is important because we also need to encourage and inspire more people to contribute. And that is why it's so important that we have the capability of generating new knowledge articles to share what we know with our colleagues in a very seamless and integrated way into our already existing processes. This feature is on the roadmap, and we are working on it as we speak. We have a plan to get this into production in second quarter, end of second quarter next year. So I probably will have an opportunity to come back and talk more about this. Next capability I want to talk about is identifying redundancies or finding duplicates. Duplicated articles refer to multiple articles of the same or very similar content being created and stored within the knowledge base. And this is something that we absolutely want to try to stay away from. So if we take a step back to how we generate new articles as draft, well, one of the reasons we do that is because we want to avoid creating multiple articles about the same, say, issue or problem. And you may recognize this, but when something happens in our organizations, people start to call Service Desk. If I respond to a new issue in Service Desk to something we don't know yet, this is a new problem, there is a strong possibility that someone else will get the same kind of call minutes later. And when that happens, it's important that we have a draft of a knowledge article that, if I get this call prior to my colleague, this is the first time I started to drop a draft. Because when my colleague then searches knowledge base, he or she will see that, okay, here's an article, someone has already started on this, so I don't need to create another one. This is important. Duplicated articles can cause confusion and reduce our efficiency, because duplicated articles in the end will make it harder for people to find accurate information. So we want to absolutely stay away from this. It certainly helps to have a well-defined process for our knowledge management, but we also see Knowledge Curator being able to support us here. As a first step, help us to prevent duplicates from being created by notifying us when we are about to create or edited articles. Have it step in and say like, hey, you're now telling me to generate an article that we already have. I kind of picture this as someone that stands beside us, looking over our shoulders as we write up or generate our articles, and tap us on the head and let us know that we already have this article. Stop it. But this is not the only thing. Knowledge Curator will also look at the entire knowledge base, notifying us of potential duplicated articles and performing suggested actions such as deduping of articles or archiving articles, just to help us keep the knowledge base clean and accurate. And we can absolutely debate if it's necessary. If we have a way to stop duplicates from being created, is it necessary to also have a scan that works through the knowledge base? Well, I think it is, because there will be slips. Even if we use AI, even if we follow a process, there will be slips here and there, and we will eventually get some duplicates in the knowledge base. And this is not only coming from when we create new articles. It could also be a situation where we edit an article, and someone starts to edit an article to a point where that article starts to be very close to something that we already have. So I think it's important to have or to use AI in this area to help us clean and just maintain our knowledge base. So to summarize this part, the curator agent will be able to help us to prevent duplicates from being created. That's the first thing we're going to do. Perform scans on the entire knowledge base looking for duplicate articles. And then at the end, also being able to take actions such as deduping or change knowledge states or retire articles. We are also working on a feature or capability called knowledge health. So as I said there in the beginning, that one of the more common challenges I hear about is keeping the knowledge base accurate and up to date. And this is not something new. And I do believe that each and every one of us working with knowledge probably see this as a challenge. In my first meeting I had with a customer to discuss knowledge management, and this was more than a decade ago, this question came up. How do we do this? How do we keep track of changes to our technology? Like, we have services, applications, they're being deprecated, change some names, we have new applications. That's one part. On the other hand, we also have authors or people responsible for articles that people are moving around in our organization. They change positions, and with that, maybe we lose an author. This person is not the author anymore, but we have 15 articles with that person saying he's an author. So these are all things that could have an impact on the knowledge base. So how do we fix it? Well, we of course need to have first and foremost, I think we need to have a realistic approach to this. The knowledge base will always be slightly behind the rest of the organization. That's just how it is. Even if we could follow KCS strictly, creating our knowledge base on demand and usage and all that good stuff, it will help, but the knowledge base will always be a little bit behind the rest of the organization. With Knowledge Curator Agent, we will try to take down the effort of keeping up, because the effort of doing this is huge, if even possible. So the Knowledge Curator has a lot of friends, right? We saw that in a slide there in the beginning, the fleet of agents that we are building. So we're going to use that. The Curator Agent will use the other agents to gather information about changes in our organization, changes that have an impact on our knowledge base. So one of the other agents would be able to tell Knowledge Curator that, hey, did you know that application X is deprecated? And the Curator Agent will be able to forward this information to us, the knowledge workers, and say that, hey, I just found out that application X is deprecated, and I know about 10 articles in the knowledge base mentioning application X. What do you want to do with this information? So this would be one example. But the knowledge curator agents also have a lot of information already available in the knowledge base. So to act on that information, it would be able to tell us that X number of articles has not been viewed or edited in the last 12 months. What shall I do? Do you want me to retire them, or do you want to review them, or what do you want to do? So I see this as starting of a combination of the agent and human interaction. Eventually, I think this has strong possibility of being a completely autonomous functionality where these agents can collaborate without human interference, make their own decisions, making sure that our knowledge base are nice and clean at all times. I can also see a use case where the curator agent looks at article quality across the knowledge base. And this is a bit more exploratory for now, but essentially I'm thinking about ways to automate the work that a KCS coach would do. And typically they do article quality index, right? AQI or content standard checklist, as this is called today. Scanning through the knowledge base, looking for articles that do not meet the content standard guidelines that we have defined for our knowledge management process. In my opinion, the things we have in mind for the curator agent and what we call knowledge health is a game changer for knowledge management. These challenges I mentioned has such an impact on the effort that we put into the knowledge base and the value that we can provide. So I'm very excited about working on this. I would say we're fairly close to solving some major challenges in the world of knowledge management. I have one more feature I'd like to cover, and that is something we called validate. So the knowledge curator validate feature is all about quality. The purpose is to help us create better knowledge articles. In a scenario where I'm about to publish an article, I can use the knowledge curator to validate the article for me and suggest recommended updates before I take this before I publish this article. And this is just one scenario. I can ask knowledge curator to validate any article, no matter where it is in the knowledge lifecycle. So but let's stay on the scenario where we have a new article that we're supposed to create and publish for self-service. So a couple of things comes to mind when we write our articles, right? We should focus on titles. The title is important. We should have clear describing titles for our articles because the title is the first thing a user will see in, let's say, a search result. The title is also important for search engine algorithms when it comes to calculating relevancy. The validate feature will help us with the titles. Another thing that's important when we create knowledge is to use the user's or requester's own words and phrases when we write up our articles. I've seen so many examples of this over the years where a customer complained about search, and when we started to talk about it, I realized that they have a team of technical writers creating the knowledge articles. Well, if you have a team of technical writers creating your articles, you're going to have articles written in a technical language. And this is typically not the same language as a user would use. Writing articles using the same words and phrases as the user will not only increase findability, but it will also make the article more understandable for the intended audience. And we need to have knowledge articles that people can find and articles that people can understand. Otherwise, our knowledge will be useless. And the validator will be able to read the article and suggest ways to simplify written text for this purpose, right? So So the knowledge curator, okay, I'm checking the time here. I was thinking I would rather show you this, right? Instead of looking at a bunch of slides, let me just go into demo mode and show you the validate feature, because we have a beta out already. This will be in the Common application in January. My browser?
Yes, you're on the search knowledge management. Yep.
Awesome, thank you very much. Okay. Now I'm in the BMC Helix Knowledge Management by Come Around application. So when I talk about these feature and the Knowledge Curator Agent, that's something that we're going to deploy across the knowledge offerings that we have in BMC Helix. The first feature validate will, however, be available in the Come Around application first. We will then transform that feature into business workflows knowledge and into ITSM knowledge as well. But we're going to start in Come Around. That's why I have the Come Around application here, and I will show you how this works. Okay. So we take a simple example here. I have an article. So we can see that this article is in pretty bad shape. We're going to have to assume that this is something that I'm working on, right? So my title is, up until now, how to, right? We probably want to change that. And we have some text, okay? So I can go in here to edit mode. And I can start Knowledge Curator Agent. So the first thing it will ask me is, do you want to validate this article? And I can say, yes, let's do that. And up comes these suggestions for improvement. So we can see there's a title here, right? So if I click that title, it changes my title to say, this is pretty much a better one, right? How to manage Microsoft Defender firewall. And we can see from the content of this article, it's about Microsoft Defender firewall. So I'm gonna go ahead and accept that one, okay? I don't have an issue, but the curator agents has seen that and are now suggest one for me. Users may not, well, seems to be pretty good. We accept that as well. And we have environment. I missed that too. So let's go for the suggestion, Windows 10 or later versions. Pretty accurate. This is talking about Windows. And then we have CAUS. If we want to use CAUS, it has suggested something that we can have in CAUS. Okay, let's accept that. So now the article looks a lot better, right? We have a good title. We have also some issue and environment, and we also got a CAUS, just like that. But this is not everything. We can continue. So I can say I do want to change. I do want to change the resolution a little bit. So I can go in and I can say, add bullet list to resolution. And it comes back with a suggestion. Let's try that. And it looks much better. Okay, accept that. I also want to have add Mac to env. Yeah, and Mac OS. So even though I only wrote Mac, it understands that this is probably, he's probably talking about an OS of some sort. So this is pretty cool. It's pretty good. So what I'm actually doing is I'm sending the article to the AI, to the knowledge curator, with a question, right? So based on KCS, is this a good knowledge article? And then the AI go to work and it start to come up with this suggestion, because Helix, the knowledge curator agent, knows about KCS. So it has the ability to help us to do these things. I also want to show you, let's do this, close this one and go to leave edit mode. Don't save. Also take a good example of an article. This is an article that I've created, so it looks pretty good. So if we do this with this one and we run it through the curator agent, see what it says. It still comes back with something, but if we look at the issue, it's not that, if even any changes to it, we can dismiss that environment. Same thing, right? See, nothing changes. And then I think we should do something with cause. So this is a good KCS article. So with that, it suggests only, it has suggestions, but it's the same thing that we already had. So as long as we can create articles at all times that looks like this, then the knowledge curator will have not that much to do. But I don't think that's the reality. So what an important thing, what this will do is, again, it will take down the skill gap. You don't need to be. I mean, I've taken the classes of KCS. I've pretty much learned anything from KCS. You don't need to do that. You can still create proper knowledge articles with the help of the knowledge curator agent. All right. Let's open up for some questions. Absolutely. I want to have. We said we say 15 minutes, right? So we pretty much on the mark.
We did, and then we forgot that you're the only techie on here that can answer the questions, so I could have done my best. Just give me a few seconds to give everyone the ability to talk to us, but I'll start with the first question for you. So it's come from someone asking the question, is HelixGPT Knowledge Curator Agent part of the latest ITSM patch 23.3 patch 4? I know you talked about releases, but I'm not sure if you had covered that. If you could maybe answer that question.
It's not. It's not. It's gonna be part. I'm thinking 25.3 is when we will see it in Helix. If you have the come around application, or if you use come around as knowledge provider for Helix, then it will be available from 25.1. That's January.
Fantastic, thank you. I'm not sure who asked that question because there isn't a name next to it. Our next question came from Chris. Chris, I've just given you the ability to speak to us live. So your question was around validating historical incidents. Do you want to just give Eric a little bit more information on that?
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Hello.
Cool. Yeah, so when you were doing the validation of the knowledge article that you had on the screen, can it also sort of mine into previous incident data to see whether or not there's a trend there on what might be included in that article?
Right.
Or is that part of another part of GPT where it would go out and suggest knowledge articles? I was just curious on the validate option there, whether or not it could do that.
Right. I would say that's part of another agent that needs to do that. It goes a bit beyond what we can do with knowledge management, or what's part of knowledge management. I think it's interesting though, and as I said, I mean, the ambition here is to have these agents working together. So I don't see this as that far-fetched. We should utilize all data that we have access to, right? Maybe not in a sense where all data becomes a knowledge article, but at least as for a validate scenario, I think it would be applicable, right? To look at historical data and then validate the article.
Cool, thank you.
Thanks for your question, Chris. If you've got anything else, feel free to ask another question. It's not one per person. If you've got anything else you want to ask Eric.
No, that's me done. Thank you.
Okay, great. So next question we've got, Eric, was how and where would Curator create a draft article? Is that in response to the use query in Virtual Agent HelixGPT? Who owns the draft article?
That is an interesting question. So first, I would say that an article with or without HelixGPT, an article should be created early, right? When we start to work on a ticket or incident, that's when we should create the draft of our article, because of the reasons that I mentioned. It's important that we can, that anyone in service desk can find an article to see that, okay, someone has started. It's not fair to ask me to write a full article because I'm responding to a phone call. I may not know anything about the problem, right? I'm a responder, but I should document the problem, and someone else can add the solution. The knowledge curator agent should work in the same way. As early as possible, get the information written. If we have a conversation before this, let's say we have a ticket that's created from a live chat or some other ChatGPT related conversation that we might have, we should use that data as well to create a first draft of an article. But it needs to be created early in the process. I hope that answered the question.
Whoever did ask it, if you just want to respond back and say yes or no, if you've got anything further, put it into a question and we'll come back to that. Apologies, Eric, I don't know who's actually asked that question.
No worries.
Yeah,
can we do this? By the way, can we somehow share my email?
Yes, when we do the blog post and send out the thank yous, I'll provide your details in there and also point them where is also useful in the communities as well. So I normally send a thank you email, which will go out in the next 24 hours with all
Perfect.
the content that we shared today, including the recordings, any resources we recommend, and then I will curate all of the Q&A together and I will send out that as a blog post and it'll all be one in email.
Perfect.
And your email address as well. Yes.
I just want to mention that if you find this interesting and knowledge management and everything, please ping me. Let's talk about it. If you want to know more, let me know. We can talk about it. I love to talk knowledge management, so no issue at all.
Right. I will make sure that that's put on there. Thank you. We'll move to Mike's question. In fact, there's two questions. So Mike, I don't know if you want to come off mute and ask both of them yourself and have a discussion with Eric. Can you hear us?
Hi, Eric.
Hello.
Yeah, so my first question is on Curator. So you mentioned quite a lot about that being from an agent perspective, but what happens with end user knowledge? So end users proceeding, asking questions on self-service through DWP. Are we expecting to be able to curate knowledge and build proposed knowledge articles from that perspective as well?
I would assume that the entire knowledge base, regardless of who's creating the articles, are available for HelixGPT. So if you go to Helix Virtual Agent or if you go to Daily to Workplace, have a conversation with HelixGPT, the sort of underlying source, the foundation of data could potentially be your knowledge base, right? Here's, of course, is a configuration item. You can use the command knowledge base, but it doesn't really matter who's created the articles to me. As long as the articles are published, end users are allowed to see them. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. So this is more end users through DWP. So if they're putting search terms in and there's knowledge gaps, it doesn't find knowledge. Obviously, the curator will propose knowledge from an agent perspective and potentially create new articles. Are we expecting that any insights to end users in terms of what they're searching for to be available? I suppose that's my question there.
All right. So you mean they search for something they can't find?
Correct.
Will the knowledge curator be able to pick that up? I think it should be able to pick that up. We haven't really discussed that yet, but knowledge gaps is another thing that we want to have some control over the knowledge gaps. And today we can track this in our data reports, right? So I definitely think that we should eventually have that kind of information. How we will get it, I don't know that yet, but we should definitely try to cover the knowledge gaps as much as we can.
Okay, thank you. My second question there was around translated knowledge articles. So is this going to be multilingual?
Yes, it will be. Absolutely. We have translated the UI. It already understands different languages. I can communicate. I can do this for a German article. I can go ahead and validate a German article, and it will understand and provide me perfectly good suggestions in German then. So absolutely.
Okay, thank you. And then my final question was around the role of the traditional knowledge manager. How do you think that role will change with AI and being able to curate knowledge and doing a lot of the work around quality and assessment of the knowledge base?
Well, I think it's important. Now I see this that we're kind of at the start right now, and with that, I think it's important that we have a work side by side approach to this. I will not think it's okay to just let AI do everything. You know, we need to have some control. We need to make sure that we create articles when we should create articles, not just randomly generate a bunch of articles that will not do us any good. Going forward, I think that we more will start to do this, at least steps of this, more autonomously. Having agents communicating with each other, carrying out certain tasks like monitoring your knowledge base, looking for obsolete and old stale articles that we don't need anymore. Typically good things for an AI to do eventually. Right now, I think it makes a lot of sense to have a bit of control over this to see how it behaves. I'm trying to be a bit mindful here.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Any other questions? I know there was 3, but did you have anything else? Maybe not. Okay. Eric, that's okay. Eric, we do have another comment actually, rather than a question in the Q&A. Carl has just written, fantastic webinar, really interesting to learn more about HelixGPT and even better to see the live demo. And also just mentioning that they're not using CommaRound or HelixGPT yet, but this is supporting his business case. So Carl, what I will do, I know you're full of cold today, I will put you in contact with Eric, because as you go through the business case, if you do need any support, as he mentioned earlier, I'd be more than happy to help reach out. So nice comments, and a few more from
perfect.
Chris saying great webinar, lots of hearts as well. We have allocated the emojis because I know it's really hard when we leave people in silence, but we know that we can get easily distracted when we're presenting content and then we never get right to the end. So I'm very mindful that I leave everyone muted until we get to the end. So when you do have questions, do put them in here. Don't feel you also have to wait until the end of these webinars to come out live as well. If you have any questions beyond there, we're trying to run a schedule, certainly for the HelixGPT. So Des isn't here with me today, but part of the fruition of that webinar series, as well as the AI Ops one, is they're the 2 biggest topics that are out there at the moment, and we try to connect it to all of BMC products. So Eric will be coming back round again. 2025, we're going to be looking at all the other features and agents that are coming out. So they may not be as regular as the monthly, but certainly Eric works with me on the cadence of the quarterly reviews that we do as a roadmap series, and then he's come and been invited to come to this GPT. So anything that you're interested in, I don't just cultivate the content myself. If anyone gives any feedback, I go and take it away to the product managers or find someone internally within BMC that can help produce that content. And the more feedback we get from you, the better. And also, Eric, it's made me think actually from today with some of the ideas that we will send out the design partner slides as well. So if any of you do want to become part of a design partner, feel free to fill in those details. We'd love to have you on board because we work very close with the product UX team. So that was just something else I wanted to mention. So we don't have any more questions in there, just lots of thumbs up and hearts saying really good session. So really positive to hear that. I think this is for Eric and I the highest numbers that we've had around knowledge. So I'm glad everyone's now seeing the importance of knowledge if they haven't already. So we always try to strive to get more people to join. Do share it out with everyone, and it will get put onto YouTube over the next 24 hours. Do share it, and keep an eye on the webinar page that I run on communities. It will be refreshed, a new one for 2025, and I'm already building content now. So I'm still looking. If any of you got any ideas, reach out and let me know. Eric, I don't know if there's any final comments that you want to sort of add apart from getting people to contact you, or if there's anyone else that wants to ask us some questions before we close.
Well, I want to say thank you for everyone joining. I so much appreciate the feedback and the hearts and the thumbs up and everything. It's awesome. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Okay, I'm going to assume there's no more questions. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and thank you, Eric, for presenting today. Without my presenters, we wouldn't be able to run these sessions, so feedback's really key for us. We hope to see you again soon. The next session that we've got is, you can see session 7 is the Innovation Suite, which I'll be running with a couple of our other product managers. Please come and join us for that one. And then I will be closing the webinars on the 17th of December, which is the last one. It's a workshop, so I have made an allowance, but I know people want to rest over Christmas. So we will see you also either there or back in the new year.